Thank you for joining us today for this service on companionship. My name is Hadley, and I'll be joined today by my classmates Polly and Andrew. If you guys could wave maybe briefly, wonderful. And today we want to share an exploration of companionship, the possibility that we need not ever walk alone. This theme emerged around a campfire this fall when the three of us gathered in person, delightfully, over Polly's homemade vegetable soup. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few Zoom tips in case that is welcome by anyone. Please remember to keep yourself muted while others are speaking to avoid background noise. You can mute and unmute yourself in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. We also recommend putting your screen on speaker view until Polly says otherwise to better connect with the person sharing. You can switch your views in the top right view button of your screen. And we invite anyone who feels that is right to add their preferred pronouns to their name. You can do this by selecting the three horizontal dots at the top right of your picture and selecting Rename. We will have a period of breakout rooms in this service. Everyone will be placed randomly into pairs, and so when the window pops up on your screen, if you feel comfortable, you can simply click Join. If you do not feel comfortable or unable, please just ignore the button and we will make sure to rearrange everyone. And finally, this service is being recorded with the exception of those breakout rooms. And we want everyone to feel welcome to engage in whatever way fits them best today. So please feel free to turn on or off your video in the bottom left-hand corner. And then before we get started, I'm just going to share the order of our service. We navigate all these buttons. So the service will proceed as you see here. We'll start with an invocation and blessing, and then proceed through meditation and storytelling, some music, and eventually close with a ritual and a blessing. With that, I will ring a bell and pass it to Polly.
We begin with welcome, a wide as the sea welcome to each one of us. We are all welcome just as we are. Whatever we believe or do not believe, wherever we've been, whoever we have been, we are all welcome here.
May we each know beyond knowing the reality of our belonging here, that we are cherished in and by creation. May we learn how to cherish ourselves and each other, and breathe grace when our learnings come with pain. May we remember who we are, not alone, companioned by this breath, this earth, this one holy body of this cosmos. Thank you for who I am, for who you are, and for who we are together.
And now let's continue with a blessing. Dear community gathered today, all of us who love and desire to be loved, let us be companioned in this beautiful company. Look around you, please, at the people and whatever is with you where you are. Maybe seagulls flying overhead, or your kids, or plants on the windowsill, or pillows on the couch, or friends. Let us welcome departed ancestors and the benevolent gaze and love of whatever godly spirits wish to join this space. We stand with and in an unknowable mystery that holds life and death and all of creation.
I invite us all to bestow a blessing by simply looking around and smiling on this space, with your heart to start perhaps, and maybe your eyes will follow, maybe even your mouth will join too.
And now let us call to mind why we are here, to pause, to be still and to listen, to remember who we are and how we are companioned in this sacred life.
So welcome. So welcome. Yeah, so happy to be here with all of you. And with myself as you be with yourself. So in that spirit, want to welcome us all into a guided meditation now. So just get your bodies where they need to be comfortable, and just receive some of these words and some of these guidances. I'm going to close my eyes. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable, to begin connecting with yourself in this moment. Yeah, and maybe placing your hands on your heart or your thighs, or attending to that physical connection with yourself. And becoming aware of your breath. This loyal, steadfast companion who's been with you since the very beginning of you, and will be here with you at the very end as you transform into the next. Just taking this moment to be with that companion. And with all of who you are, all that you bring to this moment, all those experiences, all those memories, all those beautiful concerns and hopes. Taking this moment to just feel the appreciation for the companionship that flows in the circuitry of your own body, your own breath, your moment. Just feeling that breath. With some gratitude. Thank you, breath. It's hard to go without you. So glad you stay with me here. So glad you stay with us for a while. Yeah, and in this place, from this place, becoming aware of the land that you're sitting upon, always walking upon. And all those who have walked this land, this beautiful, life-giving land before us. The breath they breathed, the breath their descendants today continue to breathe. holding in this space of loving attention the web of connection that binds us all together, a web full of pain and beauty, pain of betrayals and redemptive love, and asking as we companion each other here on this continent, here in this moment, that we be faithful stewards to our own hearts, that we might show up in service to the hearts of those other beings we encounter, human and non-human. And all the while, just feeling your breath. Feeling that beating heart, so precious. And slowly, if your eyes have been closed, just when you're ready, opening and encountering this screen full of breathing, embodied miracles here on Zoom. Yeah, and now I want to welcome a beautiful story into the space for us. Imagine a fire. Imagine we're sitting by a fire. Imagine it's nighttime and the stars are out and we've got a fire going, and suddenly out of the silence you hear a voice, and it's Polly's voice come to tell you about companionship.
So the year is 1998. I'm sitting by myself in the evening when the phone rings. I pick it up and it's my boyfriend, Prentice, who's working in another state on a different farm than me. He tells me that he has fallen in love, but that I'm gonna really love her. She has been living in a far pasture off the farm for the summer. And he visits with her a couple times a week to fill her water trough. She's a young cow, pregnant with her first calf. And Prentice has fallen head over heels for this creature. And he's really made a connection with her. He names her Jasmine, and she's actually gifted to him when he leaves that farm in the fall. The elder German farmer he's been working with has insisted that she would be good for us. So yeah, we skipped the puppy and we went right to the 800-pound horned bovine companion who needed to be milked twice a day, 9 months of the year. So, but Prentice was right. I really fell in love with her too. And she became a part of our little pod, Jasmine. So fast forward 5 years, Prentice and I had married. Jasmine had had several calves and was due to have another any day. And I actually was newly pregnant myself. It was August. It was a really hot and humid spell. And Prentice was leaving for the weekend to go to New York to a friend's wedding. And I was staying on our new farm, tending to the small herd of cows and chickens, and most importantly, Jasmine, who really was just terrifically, gigantically pregnant. I said goodbye to Prentice early on a Friday morning and waved to his car as it traveled down the long driveway, heading south. I took a couple deep breaths and said, okay, hope this goes all right. And from there, I went right down to the barn to check on Jazzy, and I found her, wouldn't you know, in labor. So if this had been 2021, right, I would have like texted or called Prentice, turn around, get right back here. But it wasn't. It was 1998. I didn't have a phone number for where he was going to be in New York. I didn't know even where the wedding was, I don't think. So there was no getting in touch with him. So he was going to be home on Sunday evening. I could count on that. And so I just settled in with Jazzy, and I just sat down on the hay and was with her while she labored, and those first little hooves come out the back end, and then the calf just dives right out through the birth canal. And I watched the whole thing, and it was, as always a birth is, a miracle. So all went well. It was a heifer calf, Jazzy's color inverse, actually. So the little calf was white with brown spots, and Jasmine was brown with white spots. So it was really quite a beautiful little scene there. And she was healthy and strong and standing within an hour and nursing like a champ. So I was feeling great. I spent the day hauling water. So just harkens back to that song that we began with. I love that song so much. And from the house to the barn, there was no water down in the barn. So I just lugged my buckets back and forth and brought her some molasses water and just tended to the new mom. But all was really going well. So when I went to bed that night, I felt relieved and really, really tired. And I went to bed not thinking a thing. So this is where the story takes a turn for the worse. Just going to say that. Because when I woke up the next morning, I went down first thing to the barn. Jazzy, something was really wrong with Jazzy. I found her, she was sort of stuck on her side with her legs straight out, just straight out, like stiff legs. She was still alive, but she was not breathing well, and something was really wrong. So I ran to her, I told her I'd be right back, and I sprinted up to the house to call a neighbor dairy farmer, Pete Cura, from about a mile up the road. He showed up, and he helped me right her, kind of get her up off her side. But she was really sick, and Pete had a guess that it was something called milk fever, which is a calcium imbalance that often happens during calving, or can happen during calving. So he said I should call the vet, which I did. And Pete left, and I waited in the barn with Jazzy until the veterinary team arrived, and they listened to her lungs for fluids, which she had. That's not a good thing. And they gave her an IV infusion of some calcium, and they really did their best. Before they left, the vet tech, who I have come to love over the years, he pulled me aside, and he put his hands on my shoulders, and he said, "Polly, have you ever seen a cow die?" And I said, "No." And I started sobbing. He just held his hands there, and he said, "It happens really fast, and it'll be okay." So once again, I watched a car drive down that long driveway. And once again, I stood there alone. This time, however, I was quite heartbroken. I walked to the house to eat and drink something, and headed back to the barn to find Jazzy there, but not there. She died in those few minutes that I had gone to the house. And so Ernie had been absolutely right. I knelt down there next to her body, and I patted her all over. I stroked her velvety muzzle and her huge, hairy, fuzzy ears, and her horns were still warm. Everything was still warm. And I thanked her for her life and her love and her guidance to us. And then I checked on her calf, who I'd put in a little pen nearby, and she was doing just fine. She was looking strong and healthy, and I knew I had some frozen milk in the freezer that I could warm up for her. So as soon as I stood up, I realized that the day was hot, and I really needed to get Jazzy's body out of the barn before the August heat really made the situation a lot worse. So for the third time that day, I called for help. I called our buddy Neil and I just said, Neil, Jazzy's died. I need help. I need help getting her out of the barn. And he said, okay, I'll be there at 3. And I said, just bring a shovel. And he said, okay. So when 3 o'clock rolled around, not only did Neil arrive, but 13 other friends and neighbors arrived as well. They made an indelible imprint on my brain that day as they walked down to the barn and to me and to Jazzy, carrying armloads of flowers and shovels. We 15 humans circled around Jazzy's massive, still beautiful body, and some people knelt down to touch her, and others patted her, and others just stood there in silence. And then we collectively decided it was time to get to work. So we took turns, 6 at a time. We grabbed onto Jazzy's horns and legs, and we dragged her up a hill and down a lane. And we pulled her right next up to a compost windrow, a long pile of beautiful farm-made compost. And that would become her grave. We placed her body right alongside and gave her some final pats and tears and flowers. And we shoveled that whole massive pile right over onto her. As I waved goodbye to my friends that evening, I felt unspeakably grateful and graced by their presence and by their assistance. My mind turned to Prentice and how his return to our farm would be. So when he drove in on Sunday evening, I was sitting on our front steps, weeping, and he knew immediately that something was really wrong. So I told him this whole story, and we cried. And then we walked down to the barn together so that he could meet Jazzy's calf and so that we could name her Lola.
So a song here for all of our cherished companions. Maybe just calling them to mind as I sing. La da dum da day do da dee dum da day. La do dum da day. La dum da dee day do da. La dee day dum da dee day do da dee. La da 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 da. De da do dum da. La de de do da da. La di de do dum da de do. La di dum da de do da da. Le do da da. Lum da de do da da. Le do da 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 da. Le do da dum da da. La di da do da da. La da da dee da da da. Le do da dum da. Le do da da dee day. La da dum da da. La dee day do da. La da dum da, ya da day do, la di day do da dum da da, la di day do dum da day, la di dum da, hey do da di day da, la di da dum day da, la di do do do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, do, do.
Thank you, Andrew, for that music. For my Chime internship, I am serving as a student chaplain at a nearby hospital. During one visit, I sat with a patient, listening attentively to their slow and hushed speech. They admitted to me that they didn't think they felt God with them. In my personal belief, I offered, I see God within you. There was a pause. They slowly looked up at me and said, I think I need your glasses. This visit was just the beginning of meeting patients feeling isolated and deeply lonely, and I know this is not a unique sensation to them. I began to wonder, what are different glasses through which to see companionship? To begin exploring that question, I sought wisdom from different traditions. I want to share a little of what I learned, with the acknowledgement that the guidance I derived from what I'm learning is my own interpretation and does not necessarily reflect the views of practitioners of that tradition. Central in the Baha'i faith is the practice of accompaniment, the humble learning together in the company of others. The Baha'i community is organized into smaller groups of neighborhoods or cities known as clusters. These clusters connect together to learn how to build capacity in others, such that each person's contributions enrich the whole. Rather than centering any one person's vision exclusively, accompaniment ensures that everyone has the opportunity and nourishment to grow, feel included, and contribute their ideas to the progress and unification of their community. In this way, accompaniment requires walking along the path of service together, which asks a lot of everyone. As one Baha'i put it, it requires us to deepen our own understanding of the intrinsic value of unity, to love our teammates unconditionally, and to operate in a transparent way that welcomes the experiences, ideas, and abilities of others. Accompaniment also asks us to be detached from outcomes and focus on a process that fosters the informed participation of more and more people. In practice, this manifests as true, deep friendships that involve more than the human beings involved. In the Baha'i teachings, these friendships come from a deep knowledge of God. In the words of Abdul Baha, head of the faith through the turn of the 20th century, and the son of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith, cleanse ye your eyes, so that ye behold no man as different from yourselves. See ye no strangers, rather see all men as friends, for love and unity come hard when ye fix your gaze on otherness. For each of the creatures is a sign of God, and it was by the grace of the Lord and his power that each did step into the world. Therefore they are not strangers, but in the family, not aliens, but friends, and to be treated as such. Wherefore must the loved ones of God associate in affectionate fellowship with stranger and friend alike, showing forth to all the utmost loving kindness, disregarding the degree of their capacity, never asking whether they deserve to be loved. Through this lens of companionship, I am struck by the emphasis on companionship as friendship in action and service. It's the building up of each other to enrich and progress the community. This, their teaching reminds us, is not easy, and we need to be ready to step into what it asks of us. In Judaism, one way companionship manifests is through the practice of Havruta, which translates as fellowship. This is the act of studying the Torah together, commonly in the form of a large group of pairs of individuals. The Torah is seen as a gift from God, and Havruta a way to open the gift together. The pairs discuss the text, exploring its meanings, its influence on their lives, and receiving different perspectives and insights. Ovidiu Saforno, a 16th century Italian rabbinic commentator, reads this verse in Ecclesiastes as referring to study in pairs. Two are better off than one, in that they derive greater benefit from their efforts. For if they should fall, the one will raise up the other, as opposed to if one falls when there is no one to raise him. He explains that two people learning together are better than one learning alone, to correct and enrich each other's studies. Torah study is ritualistic and sacred. Before commencing, there is a blessing said and prayer shawls are donned. The practice offers depth, gravitas, and a way to connect with other Jews. Rarely done in solitude, the companionship of Havruta, of study together, is a way to talk and hear each other through your study. In this way, companionship is found with another Jew, with Torah, and with God. Through this lens of companionship, I am touched by the practice of questioning, grappling, and learning together. It speaks to companionship as a non-hierarchical relationship. In Islam, Sahaba, meaning accompany or keep company with, are companions of the messenger. These were followers of Muhammad who had personal contact with him. They were eyewitnesses to his travels and acts, having gone through great trials to adhere to his teachings and follow in his way. Their testimonies were the most important sources of the Hadith, the collection of Muhammad's sayings and activities. These individuals were classified by when and through which experience they knew and were with Muhammad. These included the Muhajirin, those who accompanied him in his holy migration from Mecca to Medina, and the Ansar, the Medinese who aided Muhammad and the Muhajirin. In the Quran Surah at Tawbah, it is written, "And the first forerunners in the faith, among the Muhajirin and the Ansar, and those who follow them with good conduct, Allah is pleased with them, and they are pleased with him, and he has prepared for them gardens beneath which rivers flow, wherein they will abide forever. That is the great attainment." Through this lens on companionship, I personally see that context matters. There are times in our life, or the lives of others, that the physical presence of witnessing and staying with someone defines the companionship. It reminds us that there is no universal way to be a companion. However messy and uncomfortable it may be, we have to honor the particular life of the one for whom we are showing up. In addition to these and other more formal religions, wisdom around companionship can be found in other traditions as well. When I mentioned this idea to a musician in my life, their immediate connection was harmony in music. When two notes are played together, we respond not to one note and the other, but to the distance between them, and the entirely new and unified sound that creates. Each note maintains their own character and tone, but that space is the relationship that creates a musical and harmonious experience. In the words of the Austrian poet Rainer Maria Rilke, all companionship can consist only in the strengthening of two neighboring solitudes. For when a person abandons himself, he is no longer anything. And when two people both give themselves up in order to come close to each other, there is no longer any ground beneath them, and their being together is a continual falling. Rilke poetically expresses a marvelous paradox that the musical lens on companionship teaches us experientially. Companionship creates a novel character that is more than either individual, one that depends on the space between being maintained and honored. Finally, I'll close with the wisdom surrounding us in nature. In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer, a member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation, describes, quote, the companionship between goldenrod and asters. She shares how she started her undergraduate botany class with the inquiry, why asters and goldenrod looked so beautiful together. What she finds is that one of the 3 types of cone cells in the human eye, those cells that absorb different wavelengths of light, optimally perceives purple and yellow light. Additionally, these 2 colors are, quote, complementary colors, as different in nature as could be. In composing a palette, putting them together makes each more vivid. Through this lens of companionship, while each being stands in their own identity, the relationship somehow also transforms us. I cannot say it better than Dr. Kimmerer. It was the bees that showed me how to move between different flowers, to drink the nectar and gather pollen from both. It is this dance of cross-pollination that can produce a new species of knowledge, a new way of being in the world. Since leaving home for college, I have moved many places, always on my own. Through these transitions, there are many times when I have felt very lonely, a sensation I am reminded of as I sit with and listen to the loneliness of patients at the hospital. What I noticed, however, is that I've never once felt lonely when immersed in nature. I have learned that I can settle into companionship with myself, knowing that I am never alone. Even in solitude, I can seek the company of other than humans and be with spirit. There are innumerable ways to share companionship. What I see in all of these teachings is deep and steady presence. It may be for a lifetime, a period, an experience, or a moment. It may be with a fellow human, a tree, a pet, or a piece of music. For some, it means a connection to the divine, however one understands it. I'll close with an observation and invitation from Dr. Kimmerer. That September pairing of purple and gold is lived reciprocity. Its wisdom is that the beauty of one is illuminated by the radiance of the other. Science and art, matter and spirit, indigenous knowledge and Western science. Can they be goldenrod and asters for each other? When I am in their presence, their beauty asks me for reciprocity, to be the complementary color, to make something beautiful in response.
Thank you, Hadley. Beautiful. So yeah, we're each bringing a whole universe of experience to this service when it comes to companionship, and we felt it was really important to give each of you time to hear yourselves express about that. So we made a little precious dyad time. Yeah, just for you to be together with a new companion for 6 minutes total. So each of you will have 3 minutes to share a little bit about what's coming up for you right now in this service on companionship, and maybe to specifically speak to a companion in your life who has been of support to you, human or non-human, or maybe your journey of solitude and what that's been like. Whatever's on your heart, whatever companionship is arising in your mind right now. So some of you may have more than two people in the room, and so just be mindful. We'll have 6 minutes total, and if you'd prefer not to join a dyad, we'll be here in the main room just holding space and silence. But I really encourage you to try it out, and yeah, get to hear yourself speak about one of your companionships. Be so beautiful. And if you find yourself in a room and it's just you, sit tight. One of us may drop in to be with you. And if it turns out to be just you there, well, then what a beautiful opportunity to practice companionship with yourself. We'll do our best though to get you a partner. So yeah, we'll be back here in 6 minutes, and then we'll have a little space to do a ritual to kind of integrate what's generated in the conversation there between you all. So, all right, enjoy. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you. Wish I could have been in every one of those rooms. All right, Polly, I'll pass it to you.
So when we met to plan this service, Hadley and Andrew and I really agreed on a bunch of elements that we loved, and one of them was blessing. So we'd love to just do a very brief, small, and sweet closing ritual with you all that will involve you either typing into the chat or unmuting yourself and speaking into the space. Just 2 words: the name of a companion and a gift that they bring to your life. So take it or leave it. You don't know, not everybody has to, but we'll read out those names. And as to sort of embody this blessing, we would invite you to just hold your hands out in front of you. Is that the motion? I gotta check, sorry. Yeah, starting with your hands open, just to receive all of these names and gifts. As we read them out loud, we'll be watching the chat. You can take yourself off mute, but I'll start. I'll give you an example. I will, just 2 words: Jasmine, guidance.
Battle, patience.
Catherine, presence. Corey, laughter. Chris, home. Paul, difference.
Fletcher, spontaneity.
Lucy, forgiveness.
Pippin, joy.
Dean, laughter.
Daryl, presence.
Blackie, warmth. Scooter, warmth. Fritz, generosity. Gretchen, life enjoyment. Ishi, love. Lainey, listening. Dan, life.
Aaron, stillness. James, roots. Sarayu, laughter. Doug, history. Last call, people. Knowing that we could never name them all and all that they've given us. Chime, community. So yeah, feeling all of that here. Kara holding, and so much more. And gathering all of that now in your hands or in your just awareness. And the gesture now is toward yourself. So to kind of bring your hands into your center, your heart, your body, and to feel the companion of you and the many gifts you bring to the lives of the people you touch. All the words that they would say to describe you. Just feeling that for a moment.
And with hands gesturing out in an exhale, we offer out into the world the sacred we have cultivated together here today, to touch other beings as they and as we need to be companioned.
We thank you, one and all, for being with us today. And if you feel so moved, if you're able, there is an opportunity to support this Chime community that trains future chaplains like Andrew and Hadley and myself. And we will share that in the chat. We wish the best to each of you, and thank you so much for coming.